You're listening to The Local Maximum, episode 299.
Time to expand your perspective. Welcome to The Local Maximum. Now, here's your host, Max Sklar.
Welcome, everyone. Welcome. You have reached another Local Maximum. I don't know about you, but for me, this has been a difficult week seeing the news reports and images coming out of Israel. We often avoid political and international developments on the Local Maximum. Sometimes we dive right into them, but this is one I'm going to address in some upcoming episodes because there's no avoiding it. There's no way around it. So not to take away from today's guest, which has been, we recorded this several weeks ago. We were ready to get this out. So let's get a little lighter. Let's talk about future technology. Specifically, I have this great conversation with Sam Kamani about Web3, about podcasting, crypto, and I was on his show as well. So definitely check out Web 3.0 with Sam Kamani. And of course, I probably will play that on this feed as well. But check out his podcast. That conversation that I had with him we got very philosophical into the philosophy of AI. So it was very cool. So we had some pretty great discussions. All right. Today's guest is a venture partner at 3X Capital and a founder, as well as the host of the podcast Web3 with Sam Kamani. Sam Kamani, you've reached the Local Maximum. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, Max. It's always a pleasure talking with you. And how we were just talking about that, our last conversation went on for like a 1.5 hour, but we'll keep it short today.
Well, yeah. How, is that out yet?
No, it's not. I've got such a long queue of episodes to edit and publish. So okay, I'll be doing that soon.
I'm excited because when we had our conversation last for your show, which I hope to republish on mine eventually, if that's okay. But
go ahead. Yes.
It was we got into the philosophy of did we get into philosophy of AI and the philosophy of consciousness? And we went down that rabbit hole went deep, if I remember correctly. So I'm excited to have another look at it again.
Yeah, absolutely. We went into the functioning of AI and how it doesn't really understand or how that if we are ever going to get to I don't know, you call it singularity or you call it consciousness, that if the path that we are on will ever lead us to that, or do we need to rethink the whole functioning of AI from ground up?
Right. And that is a very interesting discussion, near and dear to my heart. Let's get into you for a little bit. We were just introducing you to the Local Maximum audience. So what do you do? Why did you become an entrepreneur? What interests have led you down that path that you eventually took? And let's try to be, we're going to get into the meat of it here, but I just want you to introduce yourself to the audience.
Sure. Let's, So just very quickly, last 18 years or so, I've been, most of my life, I've been an entrepreneur. My first startup was in e-commerce. I've been early in lots of different fields. I was doing Google AdWords in 2003, pretty much nearly every social media platform. I've joined really early. I'm in the first 5% of the users, whether it's LinkedIn or Twitter or Facebook or pretty much any platform, I give it a try. I test it out, or even some niche platforms like Vine and Orkut and Friendster, and pretty much I've tried all of them in the first 5% of before they even had reached 5% of their user base, because I do like to see what's out there, and that's why I've been playing with blockchain even into 2012 when it wasn't even popular back then.
It was just Bitcoin.
Yeah, it was just Bitcoin. It wasn't, And I was looked at the use cases and things like that. And I still run a Web3 podcast. For the last 2 years, I've been involved in a few different startups, either I own stake in or I've advised, as well as I work as a venture partner in a Web3 fund called 3X Capital, or 3xcapital.fund. You can check it out. We invest in early stage and seed stage, pre-seed and seed stage Web3 startups that have some utility, that have some traction. Apart from that, I run podcasts. I had books on tech startups and stuff. I love tech. I love exploring new tech and talking with interesting people like like you. So yeah, that's pretty much my background.
No, I appreciate it. And so I'm hoping we could dive into a little bit about the Web3, which is, it's a buzzword, which are real, but sometimes and I'm sure you get pitched a lot of companies that say they're Web3. And, this is true with every buzzword that's out there, probably cloud.
Yes.
There's probably a lot of companies that said cloud back in the day or even now, but we know cloud is real. It's a big deal. So is blockchain. Yes. So is deep learning, and AI. But a lot of AI companies, are they really doing AI? We don't know. So and a lot of my interests are definitely in the Web3 space. I know, even if I still can't define it. But what does this term mean to you? What is Web3? What is not Web3? Like maybe there are some things that kind of are like Web3 adjacent. I don't know. Explain to us the space. Tell us what it is. How is it different from blockchain? How is it different from I don't know, decentralized protocols, or is it that?
Yes.
I don't know.
Yeah. There's a lot to unpack here.
Yeah.
But to me, Web3 is like a collection of technologies. So it's like saying like mobile tech. So does that include 3G, 4G, mobile browsers, like lots and lots of tech that's a collection of it? So same thing with Web3. Does it mean NFTs? Does it mean Bitcoin? Does it mean Ethereum? So it's a collection of different technologies, and it is like a work in progress, just like with any tech, and it is ever evolving. But to me, when I first started looking at, it did mean like decentralization. So it is pretty much like, how we talked about cloud. So cloud is a way to host your data up on a server, and so you can access it from anywhere, anytime. And then what comes after cloud? So after cloud is the next sort of iteration, in my point of view, is a decentralized way of hosting data or keeping data around thousands of computers around the world. So there is no one big boss like Amazon or like AWS or Google Cloud or anyone like that. And that's sort of decentralization. So there are other things that happens because of decentralization, and one of that is that it is permissionless. So you do not need the permission of AWS. You can access, use, create things on that data, create things on that. So it's permissionless, and then it's also immutable because of the nature of blockchain. How it works is that it keeps, unlike a traditional database that rewrites on top of it, it adds data to the end of the array. You can think of it like that. And so it creates things on chain, writes things on chain, so it's immutable and it's more transparent. Completely opposite to what people think, that you can use blockchain to hide things or things. But in fact, blockchain is the most transparent way of doing things. You have anyone's wallet address, you can go online and see exactly all the transactions they have done, because the chain remembers pretty much. You cannot go and edit your history, that if you paid someone Bitcoin from your wallet to their wallet, that record, that transaction is there for everyone to see. But of course, it is an ever evolving technology, and there is so much innovation that is being built on top of it. So that's what Web3 sort of meant. However, that is not like the limit. It's limited to. Yes, it's found on the principles of decentralization, and that's why you would see that Web3 companies are the most open companies to when it comes to working remotely compared to all the other. Most Web3 companies do not have a headquarters anywhere. They do not have a physical office building, because they live and breathe the principles of decentralization. However, because there is concentration of money, there is still ways that it gets centralized. Just like, the top 10 addresses of Bitcoin or wallets in Bitcoin own so much more Bitcoin than the top 10 richest people, like
Satoshi.
Yes.
Hal Finney, who's dead, probably. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, it could be. I mean, to me, it's like, it's most likely a team, it's not one person.
Right. Probably Coinbase or
yeah, or there's lots. So there is still centralization of wealth, even in a decentralized environment. And that always happens. Does not matter whether we were like 1,000 years ago or 100 years or 20 years. There's always some centralization
Of course.
of wealth and resources and power that always happens. So but yeah, that's just, so Web3 is more like an ethos, or Web3 is more like a general idea. There is no particular category. And that's what people say, that, right now, DeFi or decentralized finance is considered as part of Web3, but eventually all of DeFi is just going to become Fi, just like finance. There won't be the separation between CeFi and DeFi, because it's just part of finance. It's just like people will have decentralized, or like ETFs and mutual funds and all sorts of products, structured products and all sorts of things in the finance world, and eventually that line will blur and merge. So it is still evolving, the term, I think.
Yeah, I mean, that reminds me of another term, which is fintech, which is,
Yes.
I was actually talking about a fintech company that a friend of mine started working at recently. He's very excited about it. But like, my sense is like some fintech companies are Web3, but not all. Is that a space that you find you collide with a lot?
Yeah, kind of. Yes, absolutely. Because pretty much you can call every decentralized finance company, or anyone that deals in any of the token that has a financial value, you can call it a fintech in a way. So there is a lot of cross section with that. Yeah, it's pretty much like calling any AI startup a tech startup. So
sure,
there is so yeah, it's just a subset. So fintech startup could have a centralized finance startup, a TradFi, a traditional finance startup, or a DeFi startup, or all of those are all the subsets of a fintech.
Yeah, this reminds me of a question, and this is going off script a little bit, but like,
yes.
A debate we've had is, how are people actually going to do casual payments on the blockchain? Is it going to be through the Lightning Network? Is it going to be through some alternative currency that has a better, level 0 scaling solution, or level 1 scaling solution? I'm not sure I know the difference. Yeah. But what have you waded into that debate at all?
Oh, absolutely. Because so currently the main utility that blockchain has evolved into, that people do use the most around the world, it's stable coins. So that's why the market cap of stable coins has risen from like 2 billion in 2017-18 at the height of that bull run, to now like over $100 billion. The reason why, even though right now we are supposed to be in like a crypto winter, or the bear market, despite that they have risen so much, is because they provide a real utility. So say you want to pay someone where there is no Stripe or PayPal, which a lot of them are just in like 75 countries, like Stripe isn't. But what happens to the other 120 countries? You hire someone over Fiverr or somewhere else, or just somewhere on Discord or Reddit, and you need to pay them $50. How do you do that? So one of the best and the easiest way is stable coins, because they are pegged to US dollars or euro or Singapore dollars or any of the currencies. And then people know exactly what they're getting paid, because they do not want to be paid in Dogecoin or some random thing that jumps like 2x up or down. So it's like they don't want to work for a whole week on $500, and at the end the coin has crashed and they get $50 in hand. So yeah, so that's no fun for anyone. So no one likes instability. It destroys economies, instability in a currency fluctuation. So that's why stable coins solve that problem, as well as they give the instant transaction of you have someone's wallet address, you can move the stable coin to them in few seconds, they get the money, and that's fine. And I have gotten paid for my podcasts from using stable coins, and I have hired people and paid them using stable coins. But that's at the retail or a consumer to consumer or a peer-to-peer level. There is stable coins are also used at a enterprise level, corporate level. Say you are a big business, you have branches all around the world, you want to move money, you want to move like $1 million from UK to US. how do you do it? So there are companies who facilitate that using stablecoins. If you currently move in the current financial banking ecosystem, it will go through 12 different parties. The money will go through that. It might take a week, 2 weeks. It will have to go through regulation, through lots of different bureaucratic processes. But there are companies who facilitate this, and also legally with going through AML KYC, which is anti-money laundering laws, and know your consumer or know your customer laws. So what they do is they have a bank account in UK, bank account in US. They the client or the corporate or the enterprise pays them. They convert it into stable coins. They move to US. They convert it back to fiat, and the whole transaction is done within 3 hours. Money in your bank account anywhere in the world, using stable coins as the underlying backbone infrastructure for this sort of things. And it costs a fraction of what it would cost in a traditional financial ecosystem. So stablecoins are going to be, I mean, they are already big and providing real utility for people around the world, but they are going to be bigger. And also they kind of form the underlying infrastructure. The technology gets adapted when people don't have to learn about it. So just like OpenAI, ChatGPT got adapted because people did not have to learn how large language models work. They just go and ask a question, they get answered. Just like, you switch on your TV.
Even I, who spent so much time reading and studying this stuff in grad school and learning about large language model, I didn't really bother using it until it was like right in front of me there and easy to use.
Yes, absolutely. The thing is that people use technology only when it gets invisible. Just like, we use a TV remote, we switch on a TV or any remote, we don't care about infrared and all the technology and what type of chip it's using, and we don't need to learn about. Right now, a lot of Web3 stuff, they need people to learn about blockchain and smart contracts and getting that smart contract audited and all that. People don't want to do that. Most people in the world are not going to do that. So it's not going to get adopted. It's not going to go mainstream unless it can go invisible. And stablecoins are doing that. So next time when you use PayPal, so PayPal has a stablecoin product as well, and a lot of the money that you will move in future, the banks will be using stablecoin as their underlying technology to move money in between them, to move money around the world. And that's just likely to happen. I mean, there are lots of banks who are introducing these type of products, or they're working on top of it. So the consumer won't know. You would move money to someone, you would not know that stablecoin tech was used underneath to move that or transfer that money. So that's my belief that, this technology has to go invisible so that the end consumer does not need to worry about it.
Yeah. So by invisible, I mean, could it be in the future that, like, hey, I'm used to using my credit card, or I'm used to using, my Apple Watch to pay for something through my credit card? Could it be just someone's just going to adopt one of these technologies at some point? I mean, I'm happy using like a Bitcoin or Ethereum or even one of the minor ones. I know, like, some people might be worried about stablecoin, but
No, that's what I mean, that you wouldn't need to. You wouldn't need to use the stablecoin as well. You would still use US dollars, but how the money went between your watch and the merchant, that transaction underlying would be facilitated using a stablecoin. But you used a US dollar, they got a US dollar, but the transaction in between, when it goes from the bank, your bank, or from your Apple Pay to your credit card to your bank, from your bank to the bank of the merchant to the merchant's account. So in between that, it will be a stablecoin that will be used, but you wouldn't even know that your bank used the stablecoin tech. Just like right now, you bank, you don't care about whether they are using a relationship database management software, what cloud they're using, what server they're using, or are they using a blockchain or a distributed database? You don't know. So that's what I mean, that when the technology goes invisible for the end consumer, that's when there will be a lot more adoption. Like, most people do not think about the cloud day to day. They just send the email, they just store the file. They don't really think about where this server is. And even that is partially distributed, not completely, but partially distributed. They have like the EC2 or AWS, and they have different servers around in different regions so that it can provide the data faster, and they have a copy of it. So if something gets corrupted and stuff. So most people don't think about all that tech. So that's what I mean. So cloud was possible even back in the days. You could create your own server, you can upload things there every time, and it was possible before the rise of AWS and stuff, and all that. And I used to do that for myself back in about 18 years ago or something like that. So you could use Windows NT or something like that and create a create a folder for yourself, and I used to keep files there, and that's like a version of cloud. But most people did not do that because it's too arduous, too time consuming and too complex. So people just wait for a easy solution.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, this might go into the next question that I have here, is which I think getting to easy solutions is going to be is going to be a part of this. But what are some of the biggest problems that you see in Web3 right now that need to be solved?
It's I don't know, somehow it becomes like it's like a clique or a cult. It becomes like that, and everyone becomes like a Bitcoin maxi. I don't know if you even heard those sort of terms.
Yes.
Or a ETH maxi or something like that.
I spent a lot of time talking to very opinionated and ideological people. And so, and sometimes I offer my opinions, but sometimes I like to keep my mouth shut and see what people tell me. And they say some very interesting things. So yes, I'm aware of all of this.
Yes. So the thing is, it becomes very, very opinionated, very heated, becomes like a debate. The only debate we should be having is that how are we delivering value, and we are making the life of people more convenient, more easy, and whatever is the best technology. It doesn't matter if the best technology comes out of any country, any new chain or any old chain. Doesn't matter if it's Bitcoin based, Ethereum based, or any new coin based. So it shouldn't matter. But it becomes like big groups. It becomes like tribal, like this is my team, red versus blue, this is your team, and I'll defend it, I'll die on this hill, whether it does provide value or not. It does. So that's the aspect of Web3 I don't like as much, but I think that's just a human nature thing, and it's not a Web3 thing.
Well, I think it's also a combination of, you have a lot of engineers who are kind of at the top of the bell curve there working on it. You have a lot of people who are there for maybe ideological reasons. And you have a lot of, you do have a lot of like scams. You got a lot of people who've been burned by it. So there's a lot of people who want to sound confident. And so there's all those things kind of combined, I think. And maybe there's some other reasons, but
Oh no, there always be, unfortunately, decentralization is a double-edged sword. There will always be scams because so it's like the good thing about decentralization is that you don't have anyone with a big stick making rules for you on what you can and cannot do. So that is good and bad. The bad thing of that is that there are likely to be more scams in this space as well, because there is no big cop with a big stick.
There's no big bad guy chasing off the little bad guys because they don't want competition. So
yes. So there is like so it is like kind of like a slight taste of anarchy in a way, and that's like libertarianism. But the ideal scenario is that that blockchain and maths can be made intelligent enough so that it recognizes the good from the bad, and that the people in a blockchain based environment, a completely decentralized based environment, can be incentivized to make the right decisions, to stop the bad people and stuff, and they're given the right to vote. And because of that's the whole creation of DAOs, like decentralized autonomous organizations. And then there are people who own the token, have the voting rights, so that they make so it's a bit more democratic way of like self-governing, creating a self-governing system so that the bad people are voted out and all that. But I mean, that's theory. That is theory. There's still things happen that are outside of the theory.
I mean, I always think of like the infamous DAO situation back in 2017 or 2016 when Ethereum had to crack between Ethereum and Ethereum Classic.
Yes.
And now since then there have been successful DAOs, but like that was that one, I'm sure a lot of people got burned on that. It's probably a very frustrating situation.
Yeah. And those sort of things are bound to happen because in theory, it is creating a idealistic society where the power is completely decentralized and that you don't need this big cop with a big stick enforcing rules on anyone. So people have the freedom to build and move faster. And that's why Web3 moves incredibly fast because it's permissionless. But then the bad side of it is that there are unsavory characters trying to exploit the system just because they're more technically advanced. So
have you seen any like cool product demos recently that you could share with us that might be of interest to someone who's like, well, what's going on in the Web3 space? What are some of the entrepreneurs thinking about these days?
Okay, so I just came back from Singapore. I went to Token 2049, saw lots and lots of cool products, lots of cool projects, and so many investors. The vibe there in the Web3 world, in the blockchain crypto world, is very different to US, where it feels like in US people are waiting for SEC to make more guidance and regulation, and there is a lot of waiting. Whereas in Asia, it seems like people are just building, going ahead. They don't really care what happens in US, and they're a lot more optimistic than things are in US in the Web3 space. So that's what it felt like. There were lots and lots of products in DeFi and finance. Is also because Singapore is like a financial hub. So lots of new products going to come out in the DeFi, in the real world or assets, or RWA, they call them. So basically tokenizing real world assets so they can be traded more easily. Some people like that, some people don't like that because they don't think everything should be commercialized, because that's what this technology is doing. It's commercializing everything for everyone. The other projects, what I saw is that there's going to be a lot of investment products that are going to come out over the next 5 years, 10 years, and that is going to open it up for a lot more institutional investors. It has already happened overseas. It's happening at much rapid pace overseas compared to US, because in US people had to wait for the SEC to give the green light. So I came across lots of projects on that side. There is a lot of innovation happening on the on-ramp, off-ramp, like using mobile phone numbers. So, you can send money or like stable coins or whatever, or crypto-based money from person to person using your phone number. Just text the message and do that. So some very interesting products. And of course, as we were just talking earlier, I've seen some interesting products in the AI space as well. So the
AI Web3 combo, that's like the dream right now.
Yes.
So I want to ask about your podcast. I see you have a podcaster set up. How did you get into podcasting? What is what's the name of your podcast? And maybe you could tell us a little bit more about it before we head out.
Yeah, sure. So I absolutely love podcasting. It started because of COVID, and during the first lockdown, I wanted to talk about my book, and generally I used to go to events and speak at events about different topics on different tech startups and stuff. And then I was like, how am I going to do this? How am I going to meet people? And I'm an extrovert. I like talking with people and meeting new interesting people and all that. So I thought, okay, you know what's the second best? I'll go on other people's podcasts. So I started doing that, and as soon as I went on few, and people started saying that, hey, why don't you start your own podcast? So I thought, okay, I'll do that, and I just did that pretty much within a month of COVID starting, and then since then I've had so much fun, and I've met some really, really interesting people. I've interviewed some really interesting people, including people like Vitalik. I interviewed him. In a couple of weeks, I'm going to be interviewing Senator of Wyoming, who's introducing his own. They're introducing their own stable coin. So that's going to be interesting.
Who is that? What country is that?
U.S. Wyoming, Senator of Wyoming.
Oh yes, yeah, Cynthia Loomis, right?
No, Chris. What's his name? Just a second. Let me look right now. His name is Chris Rothfuss.
Oh, okay. I know that Cynthia Loomis is one of our senators from Wyoming who has been very pro crypto.
Yes. So, Wyoming is very pro crypto.
Yeah.
So that's why. So that's why I'm.
Yeah. That's a big deal.
yeah. So I'm really looking forward to it. I found him. I'll share the link.
All right.
And so I'll be interviewing him to learn more about his stable coin, and it's just inevitable that pretty much nearly every country, every state, they will introduce their stable coins. Some would be early, some would, and eventually there'll be consolidation, and some will become really, really big, some stable coins.
Yeah. There's so many pockets in the US that, like, when I lived up in New Hampshire, oh my God, there was so much, so many people into crypto in New Hampshire, and like trying trading it, and little caverns in the woods and whatever. I'm sure that Wyoming too. New York, it's very frustrating because early on in New York, like 2013, 2014, I wasn't part of it, but I know people were at Union Square, like always trading it. And then now New York is like the worst place for crypto, which
why is that?
Yeah, because the regulations, it's like almost every like service that's out there is like, will operate in 49 states except New York.
Really? Wow.
Yeah. So it's very frustrating. I mean, maybe it's because the kind of incumbent
financial industry wants to protect their own.
But that's a very bad, like, they should adopt it,
They should adopt it and take the lead globally.
And I'm sure some of those people trading in Union Square were people who were working in finance in New York. There was only employees. So yeah, it was a political decision from a government that state government that didn't have a clue.
Like BlackRock and ARK Invest, and they're all introducing their Bitcoin ETFs.
Like
early next year,
right? So yes, exactly. But like anything retail, you can't really do in New York.
But I thought BlackRock was based in New York.
It is.
Yeah. So they are introducing it. So once they do, all the other funds will follow their lead, because they're like the biggest. So they'll all have, I'm sure Vanguard also has something similar in the plans, but they will all, Fidelity will have something. Every big and small wealth manager will do that sooner or later.
Yeah, exactly. All right. So what's the podcast called? Where can we find it?
So the podcast is called Web3 with Sam Kamani, or even if you just, even if you just search Web3 with Sam, you will find it on any audio platform.
Awesome. And look, and I'm on it. Vitalik is on it. I'm gonna like say that, like, I have been on the same podcast that Vitalik was on. That's gonna that sounds very cool. So even though I've had some big names on this podcast, I kind of forget.
Absolutely. I really enjoy your podcast.
Yeah. All right. So I really appreciate it, though. Any last thoughts on our discussion today? And where can people find out more about you other than the podcast? We just went into the podcast, but last thoughts.
Sure. So you can just search for me, Sam Kamani, SAMKAMANI, on LinkedIn or Twitter or TikTok or pretty much most platforms. Mostly I'm active on LinkedIn. That's sort of the main platform that I use, because a lot of the founders and other VCs are there as well in this space, especially the ones outside US. It seems like US VCs are very Twitter centric, but outside of US, they are more on LinkedIn. So that's where I mostly hang out. So come and say hi, send me a DM if you have any questions. If you have a startup, feel free to pitch it, especially if it's in the pre-seed or seed stage. And apart from that, the one thing I would say is that, the technology will always change and adapt, and there'll be new products and new tech. So instead of investing in any particular one coin or anything, invest in yourself, invest in learning. And that's what I've done. I've mostly invested in learning. And one of the way I thought is by listening to podcasts and by interviewing other people, or by going to conferences and talking with other like-minded people. So that's what I've done. So that's what my main advice or the key message that I would like to relay is that, invest in yourself.
That's a really great message. And even as someone who has tried to live by that, I think it's a message that we all have to remind ourselves from time to time, through good times, bad times. It's like, you gotta stay on track. So appreciate that. All right, Sam, thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thank you so much.
All right, once again, I was also on Sam's podcast, Web3 with Sam Kamani, and this just came out as well this week. So we're kind of hitting them with a 1-2 punch, and it's a different conversation. So definitely check that one out. And I'm hoping to have Aaron on soon to discuss maybe a look back. Maybe we can discuss recent developments, recent current events, and also for episode 300. All right. Have a great week, everyone. That's the show. To support the Local Maximum, sign up for exclusive content and our online community at maximum.locals.com. The Local Maximum is available wherever podcasts are found. If you want to keep up, remember to subscribe on your podcast app. Also, check out the website with show notes and additional materials at localmaxradio.com. If you want to contact me, the host, send an email to localmaxradio@gmail.com. Have a great week.
Feel the power.